Hi everybody, welcome to Friday Night Restorative Yoga. Lovely to see you all. I'm going to say a few things before we drop into this practice. First of all, this is the first proper restorative class that I've taught since lockdown. And it's very, very different from the yin classes that most of you have been coming to on a Friday night. I said a little bit in the blurb, a little bit in the email, but I just want to emphasize that in yin we are looking to actually stress certain tissues. So that sounds kind of nasty, but what we tend to notice, and you probably noticed over the last few weeks, that sensations are really intense, or they can be. When we come to a restorative practice, there should be no strong sensations at all. We're looking essentially to close our eyes and close our system off from all outside stimulation so that we're able to turn our attention inwards. It's a very, very inward looking, restful practice, and we only will be taking about 4 or 5 poses and holding them for a long time. So just to make absolutely sure, and I'll give you a little bit of time to get ready, that you've got everything you need. If we're in the river room, I would have all the kit. We'd have sandbags, everyone would have 3 blankets, but we're not, and I'm sure you've got gorgeous stuff at home. In the winter when I teach this, I do it with hot water bottles, and it may be, here in Lancaster it does feel like hot water bottle weather almost, so you might even want to spend a few minutes getting yourself a hot water bottle. And then you need at least 2 blankets. Here are some I prepared earlier. You need some kind of strap or belt. You need 2 bolsters. Now I know some of you here, looking at the names, hi everyone, have yoga bolsters, and that's great. You know what you're doing. But it's absolutely fine to take your sofa apart or to have some cushions. I'll talk you through each pose. It takes a while to get really comfortable, and then I will leave you in peace. I've got 3 yoga bricks ready. So you might want something, for example, to place under the end of a bolster so that your head's raised up, things like that. So do you know what? I'm going to leave you for 2 minutes to gather all the wherewithal. If you have a very soft playlist, that would be really lovely. I would love to be playing some very gentle music right now. I'm sure you can find that for yourselves. And lastly, an eye pillow or something to cover your eyes, because we're just cutting out we're closing in all the senses. There's a term in Sanskrit called pratyahara. I love this term. And it basically means turning attention inwards, like I said, and shutting out all of sound, sight. And that's what we're looking to do, except you'll have sound. So a couple of minutes to gather yourselves, and then I'll talk you into the first pose. I hope that's okay for you all. Hope it doesn't feel too prop intensive. Yeah. So I'm assuming that you've gathered all that you need. And because each pose is for 10 or 12 minutes, it may be that you realize you need something else and you're at home, you can grab what you need. And the other thing, I was going to say, so there's a balance in teaching and experiencing this kind of yoga, because it is for quite a long time, and you will be left for periods of silence to drop inwards. But every now and again, I will say something. I don't want to over speak. And when I feel like it, I might read a few words, a poem or 2, some of which you might have heard before. Maybe there'll be some new ones. And I just hope it's delicious. So for the first pose, you are going to need one blanket which is rolled up quite thin because you're going to place it behind your neck. And the idea being that your head, I've got this open here, but your head could be on the mat behind you or on a little bit of blanket that's left over. Your shoulders are on the floor. And this blanket is thicker. It's thicker than, say, it's double the thickness. And this is going to go across the back of your ribs, across the back of your ribs. You have a very gentle back bend. You can see here, actually, I'll just do it to show you, and you can gradually come into the pose. So my neck has a roll under it. And you don't want this roll under the back of the ribs to be too big. I think if anything, mine's a bit big. I might make it a bit smaller. So you want to have a sense of the chest being lightly elevated, but no strain at all. And then something under your knees. Yeah, so I'll leave you for a couple of, or a minute or so to get into position, and I'm going to then put on the timer for 10 minutes. If you want to start your playlist, you could start a playlist now. And if you have a hot water bottle, if you have managed to organize yourself for a hot water bottle, you could place it on your lower belly. And what I would say, because I've just adjusted this, with the blanket underneath the ribs, make it comfortable. It could be right across the middle, like where a bra strap goes, or maybe a little bit further down towards the lower back ribs, so you feel that slight elevation. And then maybe place a pillow, an eye pillow over your eyes. And settle. So we'll become still. So if there's anything that's bothering you, adjust it so that you can become 10 or 15% more comfortable, maybe even covering yourself with a blanket. And allowing yourself to settle. And I find one of the most important things in a restorative practice is to really trust the props, so that you give your body permission to surrender into the surfaces that it's in contact with, adjusting anything that could be more comfortable. So you might be feeling the curve of your neck supported by the rolled up blanket beneath. You might find that as you soften the muscles in between your ribs and up and down the spine, that you enjoy this slight elevation under your chest. Notice the breath, maybe noticing how this slight elevation of the chest creates more space to breathe. And then feeling your legs, your knees supported as they become really heavy, your heels touching the floor. And this pose marks a transition for us. As we begin to settle in all together, it's a big group of us tonight. This marks a transition from the stimulation of our day into a quieter place. And what I'd like to invite you to do, rather than to banish your senses, have this sense that you have to drop into stillness and silence straight away, I'd like to invite you to set your senses free and to set your thoughts free to be here. Any emotions that are present. Setting everything free, everything you can hear, see, smell, taste. Setting it all free to be here now with you. And noticing what happens when you do that. When you don't try and reject anything. What happens to the body and the breath? And as you continue to lie here, the question I'm going to ask you in every single pose is, what do you need to do to let go a little bit deeper? What do you need to do to let go a little bit deeper? And this is a question to your heart and your body, not to your thinking monkey mind. And in a practice like this, we're not directing the breath. You might want to observe the delicacy of your natural breath, where you feel it in the body, as a continual pulse of life, which is going to happen whether you try or not. Better you don't try. Maybe feeling that you're able to melt a little bit more, dissolve a little bit more, knowing that for this time together there's absolutely nothing to do, nowhere to go. Other than to be present to every molecule of sensation and to the breath. A sense of surrendering completely to the force of gravity in this pose. Really drop into the supports beneath us. I'm going to invite you now to take 3 slightly deeper breaths, and with every exhale, I'll just demonstrate. You sigh and use the exhalation to dissolve just a little bit more. So in your own time, taking 3. And then returning to natural breath. And we're going to come out very, very slowly to lie on the side, one side of the body, whichever suits you, but coming right off the support. So just moving your blankets, moving your bolsters, so that you're able to lie on your side, maybe something underneath your head, knees together, palms together, just to soften out the spine now. We stay here for a few breaths. Maybe noticing if you're tired around your eyes, and if you can soften a little around and behind the eyes. Maybe noticing if there's tension around your jaw, upper and lower. Softening the tongue. I just wish I could see you all in your individual places, all beautifully set up. And then very gently bringing a hand close to your face. So without too much disturbance, move very slowly. Very slow transitions. You come to preparing for your next pose. And the next pose is Liz's favourite. I think it's lots of people's favourite. And we're going to take time to prepare for it. So you're going to need a bolster. or whatever you have as an equivalent. You're going to need to raise the end of it with a thick book or a brick. You are going to need a blanket or a cushion at the end of your bolster for your head, so your head is even more elevated. You might need an eye pillow. And then finally, this is where, I think this is the only, oh no it's not, this is one pose where we're going to use a strap. And it's not, if you haven't got anything to tie yourself up with and you don't fancy tying yourself up, it's not essential. You can do the pose without it. But if you are going to use one, before you come to lie down, can you make it into quite a big, well, the biggest loop you can to begin with, and in such a way that you can tighten it. So if I was in the river room, I'd show you how to do this with the buckle, but we're going to need to tighten it. And then before you lie down, take it around the body. And I'm also going to show you how you could add 2 bricks here to support your thighs and hips. So when you come to lie down, this is just a gorgeous pose, and we're going to stay a bit longer in this than we just stayed in the other. You're going to take your lower back right up to the end of the bolster so that you can then lay the whole of the spine down, and there should be no strong stretch at all. Now incidentally, if your arms are quite off the floor, see if you can take a block or a cushion even underneath your forearms. So what was it that Norman Blair called this? He put me in this pose with about 1 million blocks and called it club class. So you're really, really supporting every part of the body. And then the belt is for this. You're going to bring the soles of your feet together. The belt is around your waist and you pull it inside the legs and over the feet like that. Sometimes it takes a while. And this is where you decide how tight you want to be and pull it. And the bricks, if you need them, so I know some of you do need them, especially if you're hypermobile in the hips, you place them underneath your legs. And you could use anything here, you could use a cushion. And then, oh, I've set myself up and I can't reach my timer. I'll come out of it but maybe take an eye pillow. So I'll show you the full pose and it is just gorgeous. Cover your eyes. So as you come to settle, and sometimes it can take a while, remember that there should be no stretching. You should feel almost swaddled in a pose like this, supported in all directions. It would be really lovely to cover yourself with a blanket. So coming in to settle as I just find my timer. And as I said with the first pose, the first thing to do as you come in is to trust all of this paraphernalia. It might feel all a bit awkward. But the really lovely thing about this is we stay a long time, so soon you'll forget all the awkwardness. So make yourself as comfortable as you can, trust the equipment, and ask yourself what you need to do to be 10 or 15% more comfortable. And then drop back into club class. And if you had a hot water bottle, maybe you have, you could place it over your chest, because this is a heart opening pose. I'm going to enjoy it for a little while with you before I sit up and maybe find some poetry to read. So it can be quite challenging for some of us with the lives that we lead to give ourselves permission not to try, to give ourselves permission not to strive. And there's a lot that we're all being invited to work out at the moment, and it's absolutely brilliant that we do that. It's absolutely brilliant that we're invited to dig deep. Not invited, we're forced. We have to dig deep and understand the place from which we know and we act in the world, what shaped us, our history, the legacy. But for now, see if you can drop into a different place away from too much thought and analysis. Not to deny the importance of all of that, it's essential. But knowing that if you nourish your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your nervous system connected to intuition, creativity, relaxation, you'll find a very, very different place of being from which to then think, to then work things out, to know. At least that's what I hope. I don't know that any more than anyone else. It's an experiential thing, so why not just try? Give it a test drive, as one of my teachers would say. And asking yourself that question, what do you need to do to let go a little bit more? And it might be simply a softening in the muscles around your cheeks. Or it might be that you're trying too hard to breathe. You can allow yourself, you can allow your body to breathe you. Maybe you can soften even more in the belly and the pelvic floor. There's nothing to hold on for. Stay very, very close to yourself. It's completely fine in a practice like this to allow the mind to wander. But maybe let yourself not follow every thought to its end. Can your thoughts be observed like clouds moving across a blue sky? They're there, but they're just passing through. Keep softening, keep letting go. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing close in, the step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way to begin the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. To hear another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait until that voice becomes an intimate, private ear that can really listen to another. Start right now. Take a small step you can call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics. Be humble and focused. Start close in. Don't mistake that other for your own. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing close in, the step you don't want to take. How soft are you now across your forehead, your temples, around and behind the eyes, the nose and cheeks, your lips, your jaws, your tongue? Can you let go in your throat? Can you feel that subtle, delicate pulse of life in you through the breath, but also when we stop and we become still, we feel our heart beating. We feel the gentle pulse of every cell receiving and expelling fluid and substance. Can you feel your heart beating? So we're coming to the end of this pose. So I'd like to invite you again to take 3 deeper breaths and to sigh on the exhalation. And feel yourself melt. Returning to natural breath. And again, we come out super slow. If you're able to release your belt a little so that you can take your feet out of it, then please do. I'm going to spend a minute with our legs extended. So just gently bringing your knees together, your feet on the floor, and then sliding your legs away. Maybe you've done this already, if you felt there was any discomfort in the hips. I'm taking just a minute here to feel the whole body extended, feeling right down to your toes. And you may have noticed a shift in how you're feeling. Maybe not, but it's interesting to observe, to keep very open and curious around this practice, because it feels like nothing is happening, and yet it's one of the most profound things you can do is come to rest and nourish and regenerate. It's almost as if you can feel frayed nerve endings be smoothed out, just as a metaphor. So I don't know how high up you are, but I want you to come off again to lie on one side very, very slowly. You're going to bring your knees down and support yourself as you come down again to lie on one side, supporting your head in a fetal position, so tender, so vulnerable. And take a little while to settle here before we come into the next long hold. And again, very, very slowly bringing yourself up, but you're going to use the same props. You're going to use the same props. We're going to come for about 10 minutes into a restorative child's pose. And there's a couple of things you might want to be aware of here. You might find, I'll show you the pose first of all. So it's important, I notice sometimes in the rhythm that people come to sit on the bolster. You're not sitting on the bolster or the cushion. You're bringing it in towards the groin, the inner thighs, and you're going to settle down, and I'll show you in a minute. But what I wanted to say is that I know for some people, there's a strain at the back of the knees. And this is where you can take a rolled up blanket. This is a bit thick, but you find the thickness that you need. Or you could even take a sock behind each knee. So it just relieves the pressure and you're able to come all the way down. If this isn't going to work for you, just extend your legs behind you. So your knees are as wide apart as they'll go. And then you might want a hot water bottle here just around the kidneys if you're using a hot water bottle. Or sometimes just weight is nice, like a heavy cushion or something on your kind of lower back around the kidneys. You're going to come down onto your hands and then slowly settle your belly, your chest, and come down. Oh, that's so good. Come down onto one cheek. And halfway through the pose, I will suggest you turn your head the other way. And it doesn't matter where you put your arms, but you do want to be able to feel a complete release in the arms so that you can completely let go. And that might be that your arms are closer down to your knees or extended up. They might be up on something. You might be cushioning them on blankets. So coming to settle, coming to feel and to trust all of this support beneath you. And it may be, it's quite interesting at the beginning of a pose to notice if any parts of the body and mind put up any resistance. Can you observe that? And rather than say to yourself that you need to banish that resistance, a little bit like at the beginning of the practice, can you set it free to be here? Can you set your thoughts free to be here? And then notice what happens with that liberation, that acceptance that everything is okay just as it is right now. And this is a pose where you can really surrender through the front of the body. You can surrender in the buttocks and the hips. And soften and soften and soften right into every cell, and feeling your skin boundaries soften as your body breathes you. As your body breathes with the evening, the space around you, as we all breathe together. Where do you feel you're holding tension in the body? Can you set it free to be here and then notice what happens? Notice the quality of the breath. And melt. And melt. and melt. Feel the light caress of air on your skin, moving inside your nostrils, down the smooth sides of your throat, into the body and then out again. You've probably heard that saying. I don't know who it's attributed it to. It might be Thich Nhat Hanh, of something like, celebrate each inhalation, because each inhalation might be your last. I really like that. Not taking anything for granted. Not taking this life for granted. And then turning your head the other way. Taking the other cheek to rest. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you've touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes, without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul, if you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty, even when it's not pretty, every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand on the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. So we're coming to the end of this pose. If you'd like to take your 3 deeper, expansive breaths and then pour out the exhalation in a sigh 3 times. And then again, we come out very, very slow. So sliding your arms down closer towards your knees if that's necessary, and then pushing gently through your hands to straighten your arms. Can you keep your chin into your chest? As you gradually sit back on your heels, and then take your forefinger and middle finger and place them lightly in between your eyebrows. And then gently push your head up to rest lightly on your spine. And I'd like us to take just 1 minute to feel what's going on. So you could bring your knees together now and sit on your heels. And if that's not comfortable, come to a different sitting position, maybe with a cross-legged position, just for 1 minute. Open to any sensation or feeling that arises and setting it free to be here. Maybe you have an enhanced awareness of the space around you. Okay, so we're still going to use these props as they are. It's quite good in a way. It's not too much shuffling around. We're going to take a very passive twist. And this is a pose that will be 5 minutes on each side. So if you'd like to prepare yourself, you're going to, I'm starting with my left hip up against the bolster. My knees are together. Maybe you find a comfortable position for your feet. Maybe even take a blanket in between your feet so they're more comfortable, whatever works for you. You might like a blanket in between your thighs as well, so you feel completely cushioned. And then place a hand on either side of the cushion or the bolster And we're going to come down very mindfully. We're going to come down in 3 breaths because we're looking to extend the torso. We're looking to extend the spine. So taking a breath in and finding length in your spine. And then as you breathe out, come down about 1/3 of the way. Maybe your belly and your lower ribs come onto the surface beneath you. Then take another breath in and find a little bit more length. And then breathe out and come down on your chest, maybe moving your hands forwards. And take one more breath in to find a bit more length. And then as you bring your head down, if you can, you're going to turn it the opposite direction from your knees. But that just might not be comfortable for you, in which case, take your head to face the same direction as your knees. And again, find a place that's comfortable for your arms, forwards on top of something. And you could again have your hot water bottle. I would take it, in this instance, I would take it over to the right side of the ribs, right sideways, this part of the body. So this is a little bit more awkward because it's the first asymmetrical pose that we've taken. And it is a gentle spinal twist. So it might take you a little bit of time to get comfortable. So settle in, trust your support. And I'm just assuming and trusting you that to keep warm. So you might want to cover the lower body with a blanket here. I'd be mothering you in the river. I might be wrapping you up. It's one of the favourite parts of my job since my daughter's left home. So I hope you're mothering yourselves or fathering yourselves or just looking after yourselves. A little bit of pampering. And then begin to notice, this is a pose where you might feel a little bit awkward in one shoulder or another, around the ribs, the belly, maybe even the hips. Just observing and allowing time to do the work, allowing time to settle you, to melt you. Noticing the simple flow of a natural breath, the stream of your natural breath. And asking what you might need to do to let go a little bit more in this pose. Where can you release? It's all right to wriggle around. What would make it a little bit more comfortable for you? How soft are you in the face now? In the jaw and the tongue, the eyes, even right into the depths of your inner ears. And the inside of your thighs. You wouldn't think that would be a place that you would be holding tension, but just have a look. And breathe. Breathe and feel everything that's present for you right now. Knowing that there's nowhere to go. You're completely safe. We're coming to the last half a minute of this pose, so taking your deeper breaths and sighing out the exhalation. Then when you're ready, turning your head so that the forehead is pressing into your blanket. We're going to do the same thing, so don't be in a hurry to lift your head. We're going to begin to push through the hands to straighten the arms, to lift the torso up away from the bolster. But then without lifting your head, turn yourself around so that your back is against the end of your bolster and your legs are extended. And then take the tip of your forefinger and middle finger in between your eyebrows and gently lift your head so it's propping up on the tip of your spine. And take a moment to feel the body before we come to the other side. It's good, isn't it? I hope you're enjoying this. And then all you're going to do is turn around the other side so that your other hip is right up against the end of your bolster. Make your feet and your legs comfortable in whatever way works for you. And then turn around to take a hand on either side of the bolster or cushion. And then we come down in those 3 breaths. So take a breath in and lengthen the torso, lengthen the spine. And as you breathe out, come down about 1/3 of the way. Your belly, maybe down to about the lower ribs. And then take another breath in and lengthen. And come down over the chest. And take another breath and lengthen. Before you're ready to settle the head down, either looking away from the knees or in the same direction, and making sure your arms, your shoulders are comfortable, and adjusting your hot water bottle maybe over the left side of the ribs, wherever it works for you really, so it feels warm and heavy and comfortable. And taking a while to settle, doing anything you need to make yourself a bit more comfortable. So all we do in restorative practice is actually follow the same planes of movement of the body that you would in any hatha class, but we do this in a supported way and for much longer. So you probably are aware now, because all of you are going to so much yoga, that there's always going to be some forward folding, there's always going to be some back bending, there's always going to be some twisting. A good class should involve these different planes of movement. Maybe what we're doing less of in this practice today is side bending. And observing where you might be holding on. And letting any resistance, any tension free to be here as you continue to soften, breathing through your skin of your whole body. letting go, letting go. How much more can you soften here? How much more can you soften? How much more are you able to surrender to whatever arises in this present moment? Whatever thought, whatever sensation, the breath. This is all there is right now. Coming to the final 30 seconds of this pose now, so taking your deeper breaths if you like, and using the exhalations to pour out any residual tension. And then softly turning your head around so your forehead is lightly pressing into the blanket or cushion. And bringing your hands underneath your shoulders. And remember to keep your chin in. I really like that lifting of the head with the fingers. As you straighten your arms and you bring yourself around to straighten your legs, still with your chin into your chest. And then you take the forefinger and middle finger to the space in between your eyebrows and gently lift the head. And take a moment, don't be in any hurry here to do anything. Simply observing how you feel. Observing any shift in the way you feel since the beginning of this class or compared to some other time in your day. And the next pose is a little bit complicated. Now I'm really small, or short I should say, so I only use one bolster for this, but I've noticed in the river room that tall people might need to use two. So just watch me set it up and then you can work out what you need to do. I've got a bolster, long cushion. I'm placing this blanket here, maybe because I need it for my shoulders, but I'm going to see. The idea is that the shoulders rest on the floor as well as the head. And then I've got a belt. Again, you can do this pose without a belt, but it's really nice to do it with a belt. And I'm sitting in the middle, bang in the middle of this cushion. And I'm going to place the belt I'm going to tie it quite tight, just above the knees. So it's basically you're tying your legs together so you can't move them. It's quite odd, this practice, isn't it? And then all I'm going to do is lie back, and yeah, it's really nice. Actually, I don't want my head lower than my shoulders, really. So what I would do if I could just now is place something underneath my head or remove that blanket. So what I don't want is your shoulders to be hanging in midair. I want your shoulders to be resting in the floor, on the floor, your head resting, and your heels on the floor the other side. And then you can take your arms wherever you like. So this is another supported back bend. And it should be, this is completely and utterly comfortable. Don't do anything that makes you wonder when you're going to get out of it, because it's a 10-minute hold again. So are you able to set yourself up? You can see that you might want 2 sets of cushions if your legs are so long. This works just about right for me. Tying the belt tight above your knees. And again here you could place if you're using a hot water bottle, or if you have anything like a heavy cushion, like a meditation cushion, for example, you could place it over the front of your pelvis here. Might be quite nice. And then I'm going to put the timer on for 10 minutes. I can't overemphasize enough that you want to be able to release down through the shoulders. You don't want to be hanging. So you do feel supported. And then really trusting that support again. And I don't know if you agree with me, but I think having a little sense of swaddling like this tying of the legs is so soothing. And those of you who work with trauma, I know there are people here this evening who work with people with trauma, will know that swaddling is in some quarters understood to be, or believed to be, a fantastic form of therapy. It's a feeling of safety. When the outside world might not feel so safe, we can create these conditions for the practice. And then allowing yourself to settle, to come to the breath. In the classes this week, I've read half of a poem by Mary Oliver called In Blackwater Woods, and today I just fancy reading the whole poem. Hope you don't mind. If you're not into all of these words, I hope you can just allow them to float right over you. It's a very personal thing, poetry. Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds. And every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this. The fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do 3 things. To love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Staying very close to all sensation, into the stream of your natural breath. Allowing everything to be here. Allowing everything to be here. So you still have several minutes to go. So maybe it's worth asking yourself again what you need to do to let go a little bit more. And of course, don't tolerate any discomfort. If this just isn't working for you, come off the props. And simply lie on the floor resting. Always in big woods, when you leave familiar ground and step off alone into a new place, there will be, along with the feelings of curiosity and excitement, a little nagging of dread. It's the ancient fear of the unknown, and it's your first bond with the wilderness you're going into. You're undertaking the first experience, not of the place, but of yourself in that place. It's an experience of our essential loneliness, for nobody can discover the world for anybody else. It is only after we have discovered it for ourselves that it becomes a common ground and a common bond, and we cease to be alone. And the world cannot be discovered by a journey of miles, no matter how long, but only by a spiritual journey, a journey of 1 inch, very arduous and humbling and joyful, by which we arrive at the ground of our feet and learn to be at home. That's The Unforeseen Wilderness, Kentucky's Red River Gorge by Wendell Berry. And Lorna Wendellberry always makes me think of John. I remember seeing it in your bathroom the first when we visited. Coming towards the end of this pose, if you would like to take 3 fuller breaths and sigh on the exhalation, please do. And we're going to come out by, first of all, lifting the legs up, so bending the knees up towards you. So you can then, if you have a belt, you can release it and take it to one side. And then just like we have in the past, coming very gently off to one side. You can take a moment to lie in a recovery position, in a fetal position. So these are long held poses. So many things can happen during these times. I'm going to very gently push up, very gently push up. And to counter that back bend, we're going to take a very simple pose. It's a bit like a building site around here now. I'm going to take a very simple pose without any props, just a very, very simple forward fold. You could sit up on a blanket if you wanted, but it's not like we're going to do anything too deep or profound. You're going to take your legs out in front of you. They can be a little way apart. And then all you're going to do is drop forwards. And it may be that you drop forwards that far, or it may be you come all the way down. And we just stay for 1 minute, that's all. Lovely and long at the back of the neck. And come into your own stillness here. Very, very soft around the jaw and the mouth. The eyes. Seeing if there's any more that you can let go around the shoulders, the back of the ribs, all the way down to your fingertips, your toes. And then again, keeping your chin in towards your chest, gently reassembling your spine 1 bone at a time, 1 vertebra at a time. Taking the tips of your forefinger and middle finger to the space in between your eyebrows. And lifting your head very softly to a vertical position to notice how you feel. And then from here, We're going to finish the practice in a meditation seat. So you could sit on a cushion. It's really nice to sit up on a bolster, so there's nothing hard here. Just coming into a very soft seated position that suits you. And allowing yourself to release down through the hips, to close your eyes. And be very, very, very observant now. How do you feel in your fingertips, for example? And the palms of your hands? In your forearms and upper arms and armpits? What do you notice about the stream of your breath, the flow of your breath? And your toes and the soles of your feet? Your forelegs, upper legs, and your hips and buttocks. What do you notice? What do you notice about your belly? And the back of your abdomen? Your chest and the back of your ribs? And the sides of your ribs? And your throat and neck? What do you notice about your skull and face and the crown of your head? Then bringing your hands together in front of the heart space and keeping your eyes closed. And beginning to rub the palms of your hands together quite vigorously. You generate some heat here. And placing your palms over your eyes so you can feel that heat seeping behind your eyes deep into the brain. You can open your eyes into the darkness of your palms. Begin to slide your fingertips down your face, allowing a little bit of light in through the crocks until your palms come together at the heart space. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope that did what it said on the tin. And I hope you move on to have a very lovely evening, lovely weekend. I'll be here at 9 in the morning for Saturday Refresh, which I'm going to make quite a gentle flow, nothing too strong, because we've got a lot to do on Sunday. And I very much hope that some of you will join me for a little bit or a lot of the solstice activities. I know there's a lot of other things going on around, so I'm just happy to do it myself, to be honest. But if anyone joins me, that would be great. because it's a restorative practice and everyone might feel quite dopey and sleepy, I'm not going to unmute everybody and turn on the cameras and everything like that. I want to leave